When I first joined St. Gabriel's, I was involved in everything. The pastor at that time was Monsignor Miltonberger, and he was very welcoming. I mean, he just made, my wife and I, they looked at the two of us and they said, okay, we need a volunteer for something. Let's go to the Wilkes, and he would come to us. We got involved with the altar service, the lectors. We were choir. We both sang, so we were in the choir. We got involved in a lot of things: parish council, homeschool, and both of my children went to St. Gabriel and graduated from St. Gabriel. My daughter was Donna Wilkes, and she was an A student at St. Gabriel's. My son was A student. The difference between them is my daughter had to study hard, and it came easy to my son. But they were both graduates of St. Gabriel's, and both active in the church. My daughter was also an organist for the choir. That music side of the family, because my wife sang and I sang. And my son was an altar server, and both of them were very involved in the church during the time they were going to St. Gabriel's. The thing that stands out in my mind more than anything else was we had a terrible snowstorm one winter, and the snow was up past your knee, and I had to walk from Allison Street through that snow, because there was only a path on Webster Street to go to church, but I was just determined to go to church because that's what I was supposed to do. I became a member of St. Gabriel's in either 1956 or 1957, I'm not sure, I couldn't remember exactly. They went to church infrequently, but they're predominantly Baptist. They were in favor of anything that I wanted to do, so it wasn't a matter of how they felt about it. When I decided, they were glad I was going to church, and I was going to church and had a religion that I liked. They were not Catholic, but they kind of backed me for whatever it was I wanted to do. First of all, I felt very welcome. At the time I came to St. Gabriel's, there was discrimination and segregation everywhere. You knew there was segregation, but if you weren't supposed to go downtown to certain places, you didn't go. If you weren't supposed to go to the restroom, you just kind of accepted that was the way it was. But I personally didn't feel it because of my faith and the way I felt and the way I was treated in the church. When I first got here, it was predominantly white. Then the blacks moved in, and you could see, but see, another thing, there were so many activities that drew us together. I think I was at St. Gabriel's about 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depending on whether there was an activity at the school hall or not. But there was a lot of things for parents to do then, in addition to the things that you did at the church. At one time it was predominantly white, and then blacks moved in, and we were treated right, correct, equally. And another thing, I think Monsignor was very good at mingling people together. I mean, he had a lot of activities at the school hall, and in the rectory, and in the church. And as a result, you mingle with the whites, and so you got to know people by their name, and they got to know you, and you began to enjoy each other. I started off as a grade 1 in the government. And at that time, there weren't any blacks above the first floor at State Department unless they were secretaries. But I kept pushing, and I kept trying and taking exams and trying to make myself better. So later on, as I went up through the grades, I finally got to be a special agent, and I was in charge of 235 investigators, which covered D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and they were all mixtures. Hispanics, blacks, whites, and I guess because my thinking as a Catholic had taught me to treat everybody equal, and they appreciated that. And as a result, they reacted to me in the same way. This has nothing to do with the church, but it has to do with my upbringing as a Catholic. This is Mandela. I was on a protection detail with him, and that's me standing behind him with dark glasses as a special agent. The changes that I saw, as I said, it was a mixture. The neighborhood around Petworth was white and black. Then gradually, the whites began to move away, and when they moved away, they stopped going to St. Gabriel's. And of course, when blacks move into those houses, then the people who come into St. Gabriel were black. That's why you got a majority of the blacks in here. There was a few Asians, a few Hispanics, but very few. I guess not enough for them to make a lot of changes in the service of the Mass. Well, first of all, when I first became Catholic, everything was Latin. And the priests had their back to you the whole Mass. And then after they started switching to English, that was a big change. And another thing, I adjusted to change easily. So if they said, you make the cross this way, I did the cross that way. You said make the cross that way, I did the cross that way. So I just adjusted to whatever the changes were. But I don't think there's a whole lot of changes in the way I feel about things. I don't think my faith has changed because I'm Catholic, I believe in God, and my belief is not in people, not in a particular priest or Monsignor or the Pope. I mean, you respect those people for what they do, but it's you and your faith and how you feel inside as to whether you're a good Catholic or a bad Catholic. So you try to be a good Catholic. Respect everybody and try to abide by the rules of the church. As far as the changes are concerned, I'm not aware of any big changes in me. Because another influence I had was my wife was born Catholic, so she had a big influence on me. So if I had a misstep at any kind, she was right there and said, oops, no, we don't do that, we do this. So you did what you were supposed to do. I just accept people. As I said, it was predominantly white, then it became predominantly black. And it looked like my observations now is almost getting predominantly Hispanic, but it doesn't make any difference. We're all Catholics. And you come to church, and when you sit down to say your prayers, that's between you and God. It's not connected with you and who's sitting next to you, who's sitting in front of you. And so you try to do the best you can and be the best Catholic person or spiritual person that you can be. I moved out of the parish area. I keep up with the church and what's going on, but I'm not active in the church here. I go to another church because of a particular area that I'm in now. I contribute monetarily to the church every month. In fact, one of my biggest tax donations is my contributions to the church. But as far as volunteering, I personally feel like I have volunteered as much as I can volunteer in St. Gabriel's. I gave most of my life to St. Gabriel's. I was a special agent with the Department of State, and President Obama gave this to me when I retired. And I figured that everything I did as a special agent had a lot to do with how I feel spiritually and being a Catholic. I think being a Catholic and the way you think and the way you're taught to think of treating everybody equal, that had a lot to do with how I felt. Because even on my job, I came in with the thought, no matter what you were equal. The other thing was the welcoming spirit of everybody at St. Gabriel's. Feeling as though you were very comfortable when you come into a new church. I just enjoyed it.